Okay, so like I was saying, the Scion Organizer is where we started. So technology has definitely come a very long way since 1989, and we pride ourselves on remaining ahead of that technology and constantly innovating products for the Sage ERP market, Sage 100 being one of the products that we work with. So um, in 1990, we developed a Batchmaster, which ran on this Scion Organizer. And in 1995, we signed our OEM agreement with Sage. So this was key for us as a company, kind of solidified our relationship as the barcoding vendor of choice for Sage software. And that OEM agreement is actually still in place today with the barcode module for Sage 100, which is what we use as our import tool to be able to pull the transactions now from iPhone, Android over and create that transaction within Sage 100 real time. And 2001 was our first real-time solution that was fully integrated with Sage 100 called RF. We used Windows Mobile handhelds at that point and created transactions, did live lookups from the warehouse floor, and it was definitely a first for the Sage 100 market. And then in 2005, we introduced our first product for Sage 500. So we started kind of expanding our products across different ERP packages, and we're still doing that today, and adding more ERPs as we go. So then in 2007, we developed our first RFID solution, which at that point was way ahead of the curve. RFID was just sort of being introduced, and so we integrated a full warehouse management RFID package into Sage 500 for some of the bigger Sage ERP users. And so again, that was another first for us. And then in 2008, we released a product called the Automation Series, which some of you may have used if you're a current customer of ScanCo. And again, that ran on Windows mobile devices and worked in what we call a real-time and a batch mode. So if you weren't connected to Wi-Fi, you could actually run that software offline and then sync back to Sage when you were done. In 2012, I was part of the acquisition of ScanCo. And so at that point, we really kind of took a look at what we had done in the past, where we saw technology moving in the future. And there were two things that we decided that we were going to heavily focus on across all of the ERP packages that we work with, and that is the cloud and mobile devices. So we really kind of took a look at what we were doing. We knew the cloud was an evolving technology. Everybody was talking about it. And so we wanted to get our warehouse management software into the cloud, and we wanted to expand our devices, which I will go into a little bit more as we get through the presentation here. But the cloud and mobile devices were taking over at that point. So we, in 2013, released our first native iOS and Android app. So this was huge for us. It was our first app that ran cross-platform, as we call it. So you could use iOS, iPhones, iPads. You could also use Android devices to run this app, and it was called ScanCo Sales. It's in both of the app stores, and that app actually is for people doing remote sales out in the field. So that was our first venture to the cloud and our first venture into iOS and Android, and the response was just overwhelmingly huge. So we knew at that point that we had to create a warehouse management line or a warehouse automation line that worked in a very similar fashion where it was cross-platform. So in 2013, we announced ScanCo Warehouse, which is our current product line now, that was another first for us. It's warehouse automation on iOS, Android, and it also will work on Windows mobile devices. So that was our warehouse automation launch in 2013. And so now we've kind of expanded that offering. So we've built off the base of ScanCo Warehouse, created ScanCo Enterprise, which has moved us more from a warehouse automation module into a full-blown warehouse management system with the data, big data, analytics, and a lot of other features that a lot of our users have been asking for in the past couple of years. So just to kind of bring you up to speed, if you're not familiar with some of the transactions and the functionality inside of ScanCo Warehouse, it runs on iOS, Android, and Windows. The picture you see in the middle is actually an iPod or an iPhone in a scan sled. So you slide the iPod, iPhone into the scan sled. Our app is plug and play with these scan sleds. So you plug the phone into it. Our app's recognized that that scanner is attached to the phone, and we now have barcoding capability on the phone, as well as we've ruggedized the phone. So these cases are rugged. So you're getting a lot of the functionality in iOS, but not necessarily on the older Windows Mobile type devices. So the solution itself is cloud-based, or we actually can install it locally. So for those of you who aren't yet comfortable with the cloud or have a lot of on-premise software and are just looking to kind of follow suit, we actually can install this locally. You get the same software. It runs the same as our cloud version. You still get the live validation with Sage 100. You just don't get some of the feature set that the cloud brings, which is the automatic updates. So when our app needs updated, the cloud gets updated, and the next time your users log in, that update is available inside of the app. So there's no installation that we need to do. You don't need to ship us handhelds anymore to install a bunch of software on. Everything is handled through our cloud servers. And then, another big key feature set, I think, to ScanCo in general is that our products all are so tightly integrated that they install very quickly. So traditionally, when you're talking about installing a warehouse management solution, some of the solutions out there can be 6, 8 months, a year to implement. Our implementations typically are less than about 4 hours. And then training is very simple because your users have used iOS and Android devices personally. And so training those users on how to use another app is actually very, very quick and easy. So a couple other features of just the ScanCo Warehouse module. We do have some hands-free barcoding accessories. So you can actually, we have customers that will run their iPod or iPhone on a wrist mount, kind of like you see with people working out or wearing the device on them, so that they're totally hands-free and able to pick packages up and move them. So that's a great option to move more towards hands-free, but you're still rugged and you're still getting that real-time view to Sage 100 that is so key today with warehouse management. Again, we've got that seamless integration to Sage 100 that we've had for years. This product is no different. Everything is pushed and pulled in real time from and to Sage 100. So there is no syncing of any kind that needs done from your database to the handheld, nothing like that. Everything you do on the handheld is real time. And then included in ScanCo Warehouse are integrations to both ACS multi-bin and SWK multi-bin. So if you add a multi-bin package down the road, it's as simple as turning whichever multi-bin package that you add, turning that option on in our cloud portal, and the handhelds will now prompt for a bin and are integrated into whichever multi-bin package that you choose to purchase. With Mapadoc EDI, if you're a customer that does EDI, we can print ASN labels directly from the device, which is huge when you're talking getting orders out the door, processed through your EDI system, and out. So you can actually, with Mapadoc and ScanCo, print the ASN label directly from your iPhone, directly from whatever device you're using out in the warehouse floor. And then we have a product called SkyPrint, which is our cloud printing application to get barcoded labels printed. And that product actually, again, works on the device. So instead of going back to a PC and printing an inventory label, for example, you can actually print that inventory label from your iPhone device, whatever device you're using, from the floor to either a belt-mounted barcode printer that your guys are wearing on their hip, or to a desktop printer out in the receiving area, for example. So that really tightens up and quickens the process of getting barcoded labels on your packages, which is step one when you're implementing a barcoding solution. So Just a very high level on the base ScanCo Warehouse package, you can do purchase order receiving. So you'll scan the purchase order and then validate that the items and quantities are correct as it's coming in the door. You can do inventory receipts as well as inventory issues. Physical count, and this is a big one when we're talking barcoding. You can do both your full-blown annual physical count with the app. You can also cycle count with the app, and we have a couple of the different partners that we work with that will automate even your cycle count for you so that you'll get alerts when it's time to count a certain product line or a certain bin. You can do shipping, both shipping data entry and invoice data entry with ScanCo Warehouse, and you can kind of see the icons on the screen there, as well as warehouse transfers. If you have a multi-bin system installed, like I was talking about earlier, with ACS or SWK, you can also do bin-to-bin transfers. So that's good if you're moving product from one bin to another bin. And then you can create alias items on the fly from the device. So if you've got vendors that are sending you barcodes on your product as you're receiving it, and those items are not set up within Sage 100, the item numbers don't match the vendor barcode, you can actually create that alias inside of Sage 100 directly from the floor. And so a big part of what we've done moving from a local-based warehouse management system on Windows mobile devices, a big thing that we've done is lower the cost of hardware, which is a huge price difference from the older Windows mobile type guns. So we've a lot of the times when you're talking about a 5-user system, the price got in the way of budget. So we lowered the price. We went out, we did Android and iOS, and now you can get, on the left side of the screen is the Motorola TC55. It's an Android-based scanner. Motorola is shipping a lot of their newer hardware with an Android-based operating system. So you get all the features of Android, but you get the ruggedized scanner, and you get the app at 1/3 of the cost of the more traditional Windows mobile devices. On the right is probably our favorite iOS setup at the moment. It's a Linea Pro scan sled with a pistol grip attachment. And like I show here, those are about $640. So versus a Windows mobile scanner that can sometimes be upwards of $3,000, the Linea Pro is a great alternative. You get all the features of iOS. You still have the durability that you're used to with Windows mobile devices at a fraction of the cost. So these are our two favorite devices at this point for if you're looking at using an iOS or an Android device out in the warehouse. So I wanted to touch very briefly on what we see as a company, the differences between warehouse automation and warehouse management, because they are kind of one and the same, but have different features when you're talking automating a warehouse or when you're talking implementing a full-blown warehouse management system. So when I think of warehouse automation, what I think of is a package that will take the transactions that you're doing inside of Sage 100 and move those to a mobile device and give your users access to creating that purchase order receipt of goods or creating the shipping data entry, doing that physical count out from the warehouse floor. Okay, all that information is still sent to Sage 100 in real time, but we're basically taking what you're probably manually doing without a barcoding system, and we're automating some of those processes for you. Warehouse management takes warehouse automation to another level. So we're still automating those transactions within your ERP. That side of it doesn't change. But what we're able to do when you're talking warehouse management is provide you with more analytics and bigger data to help you make better decisions. So the key there is you want to know who is shipping what, who your best users are, and get all of the analytics behind the decisions that you're making in the front office that will impact ultimately how much you're selling, your annual revenue, what you're getting in and out the door every day. So we've added features to ScanCo Enterprise that may not even be available inside of the ERP, such as directed picking, wave picking, and a lot of feature sets that may not be available in a base automation package. So you're getting more data, you're getting more transactions, you're getting better communication, and you're still getting that live feed to Sage 100. So we see the target of an enterprise user as being a mid to large size distributor that is doing high volume. So with volume, with the higher volume that you're doing, the more need there is to increase efficiency, which ultimately leads to those analytics and that data that you need to make those decisions to increase the efficiency. And so we see the difference in ScanCo Enterprise versus some of the other warehouse management packages out there as being the same that kind of sets us apart on the warehouse automation side, which is integration and implementation. So like I was saying earlier, your typical warehouse management system could be $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 of an investment. Maybe an integration is there, maybe an integration needs built. And then the implementation can be 6 to 8 to 12 months to implement a full-blown warehouse management package. And so when we were developing Enterprise, it was important that we held true to that quick installation and the highly integrated products. So ScanCo Enterprise will still implement in less than a day, and it's still fully 100% integrated in real time to Sage 100. So just to cover briefly, and then Keith's going to jump into a demo here and kind of walk you through some of the transactions, but some of the big transactions that we've added for ScanCo Enterprise, obviously it has everything that ScanCo Warehouse has in it. It's built on the same platform. If you're running ScanCo Warehouse now, it's actually a very easy upgrade to ScanCo Enterprise. So we've added RMA processing. So if you're assigning an RMA out inside of Sage 100, you now have the ability to receive against that RMA from the warehouse floor versus going back to the PC. Bill of materials, so we can do production entry. That is standard in ScanCo Enterprise. If you're not using full-blown work order, but you're doing a little light manufacturing and using bill of materials, there is an app available in Enterprise that integrates with that. Our advanced picking module is one of the biggest additions that we've put in Enterprise, and Keith's going to spend a little bit of time with you going through what exactly is in advanced picking, but we've opened up shipping data entry and invoice data entry for about 5 to 6 new options that include wave picking, directed picking, pick and pack, all kinds of different methods to make that shipping process easy and efficient out in the warehouse. And then license plating with ACS multi-bin. So if you're tracking pallets out on the warehouse floor, we actually have an integration built now with ACS where you can add an item or a case to a pallet and track that pallet instead of all of the cases or items that are on that pallet. So you give a license plate to the pallet, and now we're tracking that versus individual cases. Some of the other things, the one I personally am probably most excited about is in-app messaging. So when I look at some of these features that we're introducing in Enterprise, in-app messaging to me is one of those game-changing additions to the application. So we added a lot of features inside of the app, but one of the most important things in our minds that we could do is open up the communication out in the warehouse. Without making your users run around the warehouse and try and find each other, we actually have added messaging inside of the app. So a user can message another user or the whole warehouse staff and kind of keep the lines of communication open out in the warehouse. And so that's a feature that is unique to ScanCo, and I was really excited that we were able to get that into the Enterprise release here. The next thing is a real-time dashboard. This is another very key piece of being a high-volume user. So when you're talking about a dashboard, we wanted to give the users a real-time look at what was going on out in the warehouse. So now if customers are calling and wondering where their orders are, the warehouse manager can go in and look and see Bill is picking this order right now. He's on item 3 of 5. So it is truly a real-time view as to what is going on out on the floor. And then we've added some different devices that we feel like are better for enterprise users. And then we've added auto update as well. So in both the app and in the ERP. And what I mean by that is inside of the app, if you don't want to run the posting routine inside of Sage 100, with auto update, we can actually trigger the posting routine from the iPhone or from your Android device. So not only will we create that receipt of goods entry, but it also gets posted all the way through. Inventory gets updated, making it 100% real time. As things are happening in the warehouse, things are happening in your ERP. And then on the ERP side, what we mean by that is because you're in the cloud, you get that real-time upgrade, update to the app. When we add new feature sets, when we do anything with the app, there's nothing to do on the user side. It all happens the next time you log in. That is there. So those are some of the highlights, and Keith's going to be really kind of diving into those on a demo here in a second. And then I wanted to show you two devices that we feel like are very good, solid devices, one on iOS, one on Android, for the enterprise user. Of course, you can use those first two devices that are Android, iOS that I showed you earlier, but these are more ruggedized devices. So for the first time on the left, our partner Infinite Peripherals has released a Linea. It's called the Infinia X2, and it has a super ruggedized case and then a swappable battery, which is key when you're talking about running multiple shifts. So if you're running multiple shifts, you're 24/7 out in the warehouse. Instead of buying 100 million devices, you can buy your core devices, buy extra batteries, and swap the batteries out as you need to replace batteries and units. So that one is for iOS. On the right, we've got a Symbol TC70, which runs Android. Again, this is a new device from Motorola Symbol, and it's super ruggedized. It's got the 2D barcode scanner built in. Another great option if you're very high volume, you're looking at an enterprise warehouse management system. I think these are two handhelds that will work great for you. So I'm going to pass it over to Keith. And Keith, you can jump into the demo.
I do want to mention up front that ScanCo has over 20 applications that you can run on your devices, and I am going to demonstrate 7 of them today. And I'm going to start off in the receiving, and I do want you to know that we have received by order, but for today I want to show the receiving by item. With this application, if you receive a semi-truck that's full of items for all kinds of different purchase orders, it's a possibility. You simply scan in your item, and the program's going to go find any purchase orders that relate to that item. So then you can choose your order and move on through. I also want to mention that for today's demonstration, I do have a ACSG multi-bin system set up here, so I'm going to be collecting bin numbers. Some Sage systems don't require bin numbers, and this prompt would not be presented for collection. It would be a display only. I'm sure you understand that point. All right, so with this, I can put it in any bin, and with any of our prompts, you have the ability to scan in, key in, or even do a lookup at that prompt. I keyed in my bin number. Now I can see that my quantity received is 0, and my total to receive is 1. So I'll go ahead and enter in my 1, and I'm set for my next item. So if I find another item that I need scanned in, it finds the order. I move forward, put it away in a bin, and I can see that previously I've received 5 of this item, and my total to receive is 10. So I'll go ahead and enter in 5 more now, and that item is complete. Pretty simplified process for the PO receiving. And the only difference between this and PO by order is that you put in an order number, and then you can only work on the items for that order. So once again, we do have both of those options available for you. One of our new applications is RMA Receipt, and I'd like to show that to you now. So as I mentioned before, you have a lookup, and you can always use the lookup to see what RMAs you have on the system. And at any prompt that's presented, you can scan it in. And every prompt you have the ability to have the lookup or disable the lookup. It's another nice feature for our software. If you didn't want that button there for the user, it would force them to scan in that item. So once I scan in my item, or you know, I'm going to choose a lookup on this one. That one's hard to type in. All right, so put that away, and I can see now that I'm supposed to receive 4 of those. And situation being that I found 2 in a box that was returned, and oh, there's a second box here, and it has 2 more of that item in it. So once again, I just go through the process, and we can see that I'm still supposed to receive 4. I have received 2, and I'll put my last 2 in, and then that data is complete. RMAs can be quick and simple, and I also just want to mention that anytime you need to change to another order, you simply touch that prompt and move through with scanning again. Once again, scan in your item number, and I wanted to display the situation where for this order, that item is not actually on this order. So the programming is going to warn me and let me know that I cannot move forward because that is not an item that should be returned. All our prompts are like that. They have data validations. Next thing I'd like to talk about is our picking programs. And we have several. First one I want to demonstrate is our wave picking. And the nice thing about the wave picking is, as you can see, the prompts are defaulting. And at a prompt like this one, I still have the ability to key in or scan in right over what was pre-filled. And once again, I do have a complete list of my bins in my system for the lookup. So I can choose to switch to my second staging bin for this order. And one thing I want to demonstrate about this program is that you can enter in multiple orders. So if I enter in order 197 and then I do 198, I've added 2 orders to this. I can see my list of orders here. I can choose to remove any that I don't want to run through on this wave of picking. And to get the process started, after you're done putting in all your orders, you simply hit the Start Pick button, and it's going to direct you through the warehouse. And this system can be set up to direct you through the warehouse from your lowest bin to your highest bin, or your highest bin to your lowest bin, depending on how you would like to have that presented. I want to jump out of this program and just show you order picking, because it's very similar to wave picking, with the one exception that when you punch in an order, this particular program goes straight to the picking process. It's a single wave pick. Sometimes picking multiple orders in a wave, it can get confusing if you're trying to get them separated as you're going along, if they're very large orders. Wave picking, of course, would work beautifully with small to medium orders, no problem. But in a situation where you have a large order and it's going to fill the cart, you may want to just use the order picking and go through one order at a time. With that said, you can punch in one order in wave picking and go. So they're both very similar. So for our picking program here, we can see that my staging bin is assigned, my order number is displayed, I know what warehouse I'm in, it's showing me the bin number that I need to arrive at to pick my first item, and I have the description here for the item, and the unit of measure that I should be picking that item in. So I scan in my item. The next thing displayed is the quantity ordered, and then we have the quantity left to pick and the quantity picked. Now, once again, with all our programs, if I pick this one item at a time, it's going to allow me to do so, allow me to move on to my next item. And situation may be that I need to pick that from another bin, so I'm going to keep running through. And once again, that was a data validation there. It was telling me I don't have that lot, so I could scan in the lot or do a lookup. So with my lookup here, now I can move on through for my quantity. And now I've arrived back at that item that I picked incomplete again. Situation being that I'm done picking this order for today, so I'm just going to send my data, and it's going to let me know that, do you want to submit your data now? Yes, I do. And then the process is complete. I would like to show you Invoice Pit, which is a very simple program. If you have batch numbers in your system, you can collect a batch number. If it doesn't exist, you can create it on the fly. And then you simply put in the order number. Let me pick an order here. Let's do 174. All right, so everything that I've picked for this order, I can go into review. I can look at the items, quantities, lot numbers, serial numbers. Everything is being displayed here for what I picked. And I can choose to send it straight from this screen, or I can cancel out. So just for this demonstration, I'm going to cancel that out. And once again, I'm going to put in the same order number. And this time, instead of reviewing it and submitting it, I'm just going to send it straight through. If you're very comfortable with what was picked for that order, you just submit it, and the process is complete. We also have the ability to do ship picked, which once again, very simple program. If your batch doesn't exist, you can create it on the fly. Shipper IDs, that is a list of shippers that you have set up in your Sage system. And then you simply enter in your order number. Once again, I can review those items, and I can send those items. Very simple program. All right, so now I'd like to just move on over to another company here and demonstrate our pallet applications. So this is the login process. Oops, I typed in the company code. All right, so my user and my password, and I'm going to change my company code. Now I'm going to jump to my advanced applications where I can see my pallet assembly. And the cool thing about this program is that you can add to a pallet that exists either by scanning it in or looking it up. And one thing I'd like to mention with all our prompts is that if you start typing in a piece of data and do a lookup, we're going to take you straight to that range. All the prompts are designed that way. For the pallet, we can also assign the next pallet number for building a new one. We indicate the warehouse that we're putting it away in, the bin number where the pallet is going, and that's not an actual pallet in this system. So I'll enter in a different bin number. And my item. And we are going to remove these from a bin that it exists in. And with the bin lookup, you can see the quantity that's in that bin at this moment. And this lookup will show any bin that that item exists in. So now I can put 10 on that pallet, send it through, and that pallet's complete now. For the process of doing a pallet move, once again, the lookups are designed so that if you start a number, it'll take you right to that range. Otherwise, it's a complete list in your lookup. You also have the ability to scan in a pallet number, and you can decide what bin you're moving it to. Process is complete after you hit send. So my data is posted, and that pallet would be moved in real time. As Sean mentioned before, one of our new features is the messaging. And I have a couple of our programs running here under different users. So if I want to start a conversation with Brian, I can move in and send him a message. And what you'll notice is that he gets a notification on his program over here, up at the top. And this is displayed inside of every application. Once he knows he has a notification, he can move on into the program and see who he has messages from. Send a message back. Once again, with the messaging, you do have the ability to send a message straight to all users that are logged onto the system. And once you do that, everybody would receive a notification. So they simply just have to join into the chat that everybody's on, and then they too can send messages to everyone on that conversation. All right, so we also want to show you the dashboard today. And the neat thing about this program is that it shows you all the data as it's happening on the scanners in real time. This particular set of data that I'm displaying right here is one user's out in the warehouse scanning in inventory receipts. If I move over to the tab for purchase orders, this is actually all the purchase orders that are in my system within a certain range of dates. You know, it can be controlled by date. If you don't want to see any purchase orders older than a certain date, they can be removed from the dashboard. Those are the orders. Now here are the orders plus the items. And you can see the quantities ordered, quantity received. And all these tabs, you know, if there's something on here you see that you don't like, if there's something you need added, this programming as well as our scanner programming is highly customizable. We can add things to this as needed. And this particular view here is showing only items that have a variation between what was ordered and what has been received. And one thing that we'll notice, there's 20 rows here on this display. If I move back to open items, there's 28 rows. And there's going to be some in here where the ordered and received match, but this is everything that's in your purchase order system at this time. This is scanner data. And one thing that you'll notice is that anytime a scanner is involved, you have a user ID as the first column, and there'll be a display down at the bottom. And as I move through these tabs here, we'll probably find one like this one, where there's multiple users out in the warehouse picking at this time. And this just gives us an overview of who's in process of the most items at the time. And we can see all their items up here. These orders in process, these are the items and orders in process, warehouses, quantities, everything's displayed. We also have the ability to see what is completed. Now this is an item for an order that needs to be shipped. Handheld is not involved at this point. This is completely processed through the system and waiting to be shipped. We have the ability to go back into history. This is everything that's been done in picking through the scanners. And once again, all these columns, all these tabs have the ability to limit by date the set of data that you would like to see. This dashboard is also configurable so that you can have it update in real time to the second, whatever amount of time that you choose. If you don't need it updated very often, you can set it to 5 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever your needs may be. Once again, lots of different tabs, like we can show you all the sales orders in your system, any orders and items and quantities. We can not only move through what's being picked at this very moment, but we can show you what's currently in shipping. Now these are shipping records that were created on the device and ready to be processed once completed. We can also drill into the history and see what was done for today, last 7 days, last 30 days, whatever need be. And one last tab that I'll show here, these are all the open invoices that are in the system. And of course, as you know, with an invoice, you have the items, you have the quantities that were shipped. As soon as these are updated in your sales order module, they would be relieved from inventory. And once again, if there's anything here that you see that you don't like or anything that you feel might be missing, all of our software is customizable. We can make it look and act however you feel is best for your situation. All right, that covers all the pieces of the software that I was going to demonstrate today. So I will hand the conference call back to Adrian.
Thank you, Keith, and thank you, Sean. That's a great presentation. I'm going to go ahead and show Sean's screen now so that we can look at the contact information while we read off the questions. I'd just like to remind the audience, if you do have a question, we just encourage you to go ahead and click on that question mark button and key in your question via text, and we'll announce your questions as we go through these polls here. We only have one poll today, and I'm going to go ahead and launch that poll. Are you interested in learning more about ScanCo's Enterprise Warehouse Management Suite that we shared with you today? So we'll follow up with a personal phone call if you answer yes. And if you answer no, we will be sending you a follow-up email along with the recording to everybody who attended today and registered and wasn't able to make it. We really appreciate your time. It was a very comprehensive presentation. Keith and Sean, thank you so much. You covered pricing and all the different attributes or options that someone could elect to go with. So I'm just going to let this poll continue for a minute or so that we can get everybody to answer. And how long is a typical implementation for the Enterprise Warehouse Management Suite? What does it take to get it implemented, Sean?
The implementation is actually pretty very similar to the ScanCo Warehouse implementation. So you're looking at less than a day. Whether you want to install into a test company first and then move over to a live company, or a live company, right off the bat, is kind of up to you. But it is very simple. We start with a kickoff meeting, and we go through all of the kind of the preliminary things that need to be done on the network. Go through what your individual needs are as far as what transactions you're going to be doing. And then when it's actual implementation time, like I said, you're less than a day, and then we will schedule a training session to follow up with that. We can either train the trainer or get your whole team into a conference room and train that way. So lots of options.
And it's a lot easier when you have the channel partner involved, right, Sean? Because they know so much about the system and the business.
Correct. Yes, we'd love to work with and involve the Sage partner. As you know, the barcode module is a ScanCo module, but again, it's OEM through Sage. So that will be purchased from Sage, and the partner will help with the setup of the barcode module initially. And yes, it's very good to have the partner involved, just because they're the real expert on the Sage 100 side. So between everybody, we can make sure that the implementation goes very, very smoothly.
And Sean, we have another question here. Can you dispatch sales orders to users handheld, or do they have to pick from all open orders? Thank you, David.
Keith, I will let you take that one.
All right, I apologize. What was the question again?
Can you dispatch sales orders to users handheld, or do they have to pick from all open orders?
Oh, thank you. With the messaging, the warehouse manager has the ability to send out messages to the users so that they know what their next order is, what their list of orders is. They can always refer back to the messaging.
And can orders be picked from an invoice, or must it be done from a sales order? Thank you, Justin.
I'll go for that one. We always work off of a sales order for picking. That has the quantities ordered. The process for the picking is to collect the quantities that are going to be shipped, the quantities that are going to be staged. So that's the process for picking. Then we have the packing process, which you have the ability to run all the items through the scanner again to collect the box numbers so that they can all be packaged up, complete. Or the program that I showed with the ship complete takes everything that was picked and sends it to an invoice. Thank you.
And can you force those messages to pop up or make a sound when one is received?
The notification in the upper right corner is the main thing that we've worked on, just to not interrupt the process of data collection. With the devices, we do have the ability to make sounds trigger when certain processes happen. And that is something that we could explore, is possibly maybe having a little header bar where the message from the person is displayed briefly while you're in the data collection process.
And then after receiving against a purchase order, is mass automatically updated?
We do have.
Oh, go ahead, Keith. Okay,
okay.
Well, that's twofold. So it depends on how you set up the software. So we have a add-on that is in Enterprise and is available for ScanCo Warehouse called Auto Update. And so if you're running Auto Update, what happens is the receipt of goods is entered and created inside of Sage in your question, and we trigger the actual posting process from there. So there is nothing else that needs done if you're using Auto Update. We trigger the post and inventory is updated 100% real time. If you don't use Auto Update, then there is a chance for someone in the back office to review that receipt of goods entry before they actually do the post. Okay, so it's everybody each company makes a different decision in regards to whether they're going to allow users to physically post from the device or whether they're going to basically force somebody in the back office to review again. So you can do either or.
And we'll just wait a minute or so for some more questions. I'm not seeing any other questions at this time. And just a reminder, there's a question mark button right next to your name on the webinar pane. If you click on that button, it'll open up a dialog box where you can go ahead and key in your question. And we'll just wait a minute or two for more questions. And I do see 81% of the audience has voted. So if we could get maybe one or two more to vote, I always like to see that at 100%. And then also just a reminder, I will be sending the contact information and the recording after the webinar. So thank you so much. Okay, thank you, Bob. Sean, could you review the pricing?
Sure. It actually depends, and I think that would probably be better for us to give you a call. I think you said Bob, Adrian.
Yes.
And then we'll just kind of go over what you're looking at, and we can get your pricing very quickly.
That probably varies dramatically depending on how many users and the setup.
Right. Exactly.
So I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. I just want to thank the audience again for spending close to an hour with us. It looks like we're finishing up a little bit early here. We know your time is so hard to come by, and we just really appreciate you learning a little bit more about this solution. And we also will be having another ScanCo presentation along with inventory counting solution by the name of CertiPro Solutions and Starship on May 27th. So you all receive a invitation to that webinar. And that's more automation tools that you can learn about, along with ScanCo and a fully integrated supply chain optimization solution for Sage 100 ERP. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead and close this poll and share the results. Looks like 77% of you are interested in learning more. And thanks again, everybody, for staying with us for this entire presentation. We really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and hide the results, show the contact information one last time here, which you will get in an email. And Sean and Keith, do you have any closing comments you'd like to make?
No, just thank you, everybody, for taking the time out. Like Adrian said, we know it's hard to come by, so really appreciate you spending an hour with us. And Adrian, thanks again for putting these together. We always enjoy.
I appreciate everybody participating, and I love this so much. So thank you, everybody. Once again, have a great weekend, and we will be in touch soon. Take care.